Hello, everyone. We're just going to take a moment for everyone to join before we officially get started. Okay, as everyone is joining, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Victoria, and I'm the Habitat Program Manager of our Rights of Way project here at the Canadian Wildlife Federation. And I'm just going to share this little message here that we have from our CEO, Rick Bates from CWF. Just while everyone's coming in, you can take a moment to read that. It might be a little bit small on your screen, but hopefully you can see it clearly. Okay, so I think we'll get started now, and we will start off with just a review of the platform. So, like I said, my name is Victoria. You're going to see my face quite a bit today, and I'm going to begin by going over the platform controls. So I know that you've all managed to get onto this session, so that is a really good sign that you're all very tech savvy, but I wanna make sure that everyone knows exactly, where they need to go and how to use, all the functionalities. This platform AirMeet, really allows us to give more of an in-person, feel with, some different, cool features, so we'll be using those throughout the day. On this session here, you'll notice at the bottom of your screen that there is a raise hand function. So the raise hand function will be used when you would like to come to the stage and use your audio or your video to contribute. So perhaps this is during a Q&A portion after a presentation or during a panel. And just like we would in person if you took the mic from the audience, that's what that feature mimics. There's also some emojis on the side. Now, I want to see if everyone can try out this feature. So there's a little happy face or maybe a thumbs up at the bottom of your screen. Let's all go ahead and try some of the features. Okay, seeing lots come in. This is a good sign. This means that we have a number of people on the call with us too. Awesome. Okay. And for those of you who might be having some connectivity issues, there is a little button that says HD on the bottom right hand of the screen, and you can use that to adjust the quality, and hopefully that will allow things to connect a little bit better for you. Next, on the right-hand side of your screen, we have a few buttons. That first purple one is for the chat. So here you can chat with us, you can chat with your peers during the session. There's also a Q&A button, and that can be used if you don't feel comfortable speaking in front of everyone, or perhaps you don't have a microphone that can connect. So you can put your questions in there for a subject matter expert to answer. The next button is polls. So throughout this session today, we'll be hosting some friendly quizzes and some polls to get to know you a little bit more. And so you'll respond to those under that section on the right-hand side, and we can share that on the screen as well. Now, your name won't come onto the screen or anything like that. The polls are not shared by name to the group, so you can answer as honestly as you can, and we hope you do. So the next slide here, it just shows a view of the reception. So these are offered on the reception page, but you'll also see them at the top of your page on the right-hand side as well. You might have seen some notifications coming through. We might send some announcements throughout the day. You'll notice there's a My Schedule button. So say you've met someone, maybe it was in the exhibition hall, maybe it's in a discussion later today that you'd like to connect with and have a one-on-one call at the end of the day or on your lunch. You can set up a meeting with them one-on-one directly there. You can also search for people under the people button. So maybe you met someone, but you can't remember what organization they're coming from, but you remember where they're located. You could even type in that location and filter who's here. And there is also the event feed, so that will be just be posting messages throughout the day. So you'll get a little notification, a little blip. You might have heard it earlier on. That will include that there. All right. And the final feature I'd like to show you is the meet and greet function. So this is an area where we can get together and sit down at a table. You might have practiced this a little bit this morning in the exhibition hall, but this is a full room that's just for socializing and discussing in groups. So we'll be using this in a few of our regional groups today, and we'll give instructions in those groups again, so you don't have to worry about remembering. But maybe during lunch you want to have a group sit down while you're eating lunch or anything like that, then you're free to create a table here. And what you do is to enter is you just click a seat. So you'll notice my little icon there shows up. So that shows that I'm sitting in that seat, and a video automatically pops up where you can connect in a group. You'll also notice that the tables are labeled, so that will be important for our formal discussions. And like I said, we'll give you more instructions at that point. Okay, and last but not least, we have some technical assistance. So you'll all see on the bottom right side of your screen, there is a big purple question mark. And here you can connect with AirMeet directly for any technical issues if they come up. There's a good FAQ page. There's also a chat and 24/7 support. So that looks just like the tables where you click a seat and you join with someone who works from AirMeet who will give you assistance right away. I've used it. It works really well. So if you do need some help there, you can do that. Okay. So now that we're all joining here together on this virtual platform today, I'd just like to take the time to acknowledge the traditional and Indigenous territories on which we're gathering. So each of you are joining from different places across Canada and also the US today. And here I'm located in Canada's capital in Ottawa. And we acknowledge that we're on the traditional and unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. So if you don't know where you are joining from today, you might want to go to this website called nativeland.ca. And this website will be able to show you more information about the land that you're on. And I encourage you to do this later on if you have time, if you're not aware. And I also encourage us all throughout the day to reflect on and think about the relationships that we have with Indigenous nations, especially in our work after today, when we are back and working directly with the land. Okay, and just an introduction of our team here. You're going to see these faces throughout the day. You might have already seen some already. This is our Rights of Way as Habitat project team, and they've all contributed to this workshop and are here today. Feel free to connect with them at any point, and you'll see their faces, like I said, quite frequently. So, quick introduction to our project. Our Rights of Way Habitat program works collaboratively with land managers across Canada to restore the breeding and migratory habitat of monarchs, but also other benefiting species along these Rights of Way corridors. And we do this in a few different ways. So, one is through our national network that we launched last year, the Canadian Rights of Way Habitat Working Group, which is based off of the US counterpart. And what's exciting is today we've officially launched a new platform that we can use to connect together, and that is on LinkedIn. So we'll share that link with you in the chat, and we'll also share a little announcement about that later on today. And this is a fantastic opportunity to connect with rights of way managers, not just across Canada, but across North America as well. Here you'll find resources about rights of way restoration. You can connect with others, you can ask questions. And so we really encourage you to sign up for this. If not on the LinkedIn group, if you don't have a LinkedIn account, then certainly through our webpage, where we'll be able to email you and offer you opportunities just like this today. We also have two regional components of our project, one in Eastern Ontario supported by the Ontario Trillium Foundation, and one in Southwestern Ontario supported by Environment Climate Change Canada. With both of these, we are conducting both active and passive restoration on the ground with rights of way managers. And we also host a regional network in each of these sections. And this afternoon, we'll be hosting a meeting for those regional networks. So if you're within those areas, we welcome you to join. And we'll also be talking a little bit about, particularly in Southwestern Ontario, for some potential funding opportunities to join us as a partner for restoration. So please let us know if you would like to join those sessions. And joining the Rights of Way Habitat Working Group, the Canada-wide network, will give you access to those regional groups if you are in them. Okay, so now we're going to, just before we move on to the more formal component of the presentation, we're going to do a little poll here. I told you a little bit more about what it is that we're doing, but I'd like to learn more about you. And since we're in this platform with quite a number of people, we're not going to be able to do one-on-one introductions in this session, but I'm going to publish this poll here so you can respond. We'd like to know what type of organization that you are representing. So I'll show this on the stage here. So are you from a municipality? Are you joining from a First Nation or Indigenous community? Are you representing a utility, energy, or transportation corridor? So maybe that's a hydro corridor, a solar, a wind farm, perhaps a pipeline organization. Are you from a provincial or a federal entity, or a conservation authority or land trust, or maybe other? Maybe it's not listed there. Maybe you're a seed vendor or coming from a non-governmental organization. So, okay, it seems like we actually have a number from across the board here, which is really exciting. And I see more coming in. It's wonderful to see where everyone is joining from. And later today, we'll be able to get to know you a little bit more, and hopefully you can connect with others who are working on projects that are similar to you, or maybe in planning or learning more about future projects as well. Okay. So for this workshop today, we're hoping that what you're going to come out of this is with increased knowledge and resources and networks that are needed to better support pollinator habitat restoration. And I also just want to share that we've created a shared note-taking document, and we'll put this in the chat as well. And this document, you'll be able to include your ideas, maybe questions that you didn't get to ask during a session, and these notes will be collated and shared with everyone at the end of the day. This is especially good if you're the type of person who likes multitasking and listening and doing something at the same time. It can help solidify your knowledge. I also sent out a printable version that you can download and use as well if you prefer taking notes by hand. Okay, and we're just going to do one quick activity. I would like to know in the chat what you hope to get out of today's workshop. So I shared a little bit of what we hope you'll get out of today's workshop, but we would like to know a little bit more about what you would like. So take a moment to include that in the chat. Are you looking for potentially, more information from rights of way managers themselves, or just have a little think about what it is that you would like to get from today's workshop? All right, we have some coming in about additional information on vegetation management, about types of wildflower species, so more technical knowledge, knowledge about active restoration, more about communicating with adjacent landowners. So quite a lot of things across the board here. So technical, communication based, so about management plans, so focusing more on organizational change. So that's really great. Okay, and without further ado, I'd like to welcome our keynote speaker today, and that's Juby Lee. And excuse me. Juby Lee is a senior project manager at Environment Hamilton, and Juby has been working with Environment Hamilton since 2007 on a number of different projects. She's worked on initiatives that include pollinators, as well as biodiversity, local food, transit, urban trees, and air quality. So, really a comprehensive a group of initiatives. And when Juby's not working, she can be found volunteering, slowly cycling around Hamilton. Those are her words, not mine, and making food and eating as well. So I'd like to welcome Juby to this stage. I'll just take a moment here to bring her up. And I'll stop sharing my screen. Welcome, Juby.
Hi, everyone. Hi. Thank you so much for letting me be here. I'm really excited. I'm excited also to get to know AirMeet. I've never used it before, and it seems like a great online tool. So I'm just going to share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes, we can, Juby. Perfect.
Excellent. All right. All right. So thank you so much for this. I'm in Hamilton, Ontario, and it's kind of rainy, snowy, cold out today. So it's nice to be in a space where it feels much more warmer. um, I'm so excited to chat with you all and to meet some of you and to learn more about other pollinator initiatives that are happening out there. And today I want to speak about our Pollinators Paradise Project. And this is an initiative that is co-led by two environmental organizations, Environment Hamilton, which is the organization I work for, and the Hamilton Naturalist Club. So Environment Hamilton is we do both project work and advocacy, and we're a registered not-for-profit. And the Hamilton Naturalist Club also does project work, land conservation, and is a registered charity. So just a bit of background about our organizations. And I just want to highlight the main points that I want to cover today. I want to talk a little bit about the background, talk about our featured habitat creation, our certification program, our Monarch Awards, and our resources that we've been creating and that we use. So just a bit about our Pollinators Paradise Project. So Environment Hamilton and the Hamilton Naturalist Club, back in 2013, 2014, we were hearing and thinking about these questions that residents were bringing to us regularly, talking about, where are the monarchs? Where are the butterflies? Hearing stories about when I was a kid, when the porch light was on, it would be covered in moths. And now that's not happening. And what's going on? And so in 2013, we created our Pollinators Paradise Project in response to these questions. What is going on? And, a bit of context, back then, milkweed was listed in Ontario on our Ontario's noxious weed list. And so, of course, no one would grow it. And so buying it wasn't possible. But, obviously it's an important pollinator plant for monarchs. And generally speaking, when people were planting native plants, wildflowers on their front or side properties, they would sometimes, it would be considered more weeds than anything. So that was a bit of context of when we got started, and things have definitely changed since then. And when we created our Pollinators Paradise Project, we then started, just talking about the importance of milkweed and explaining the benefits of native plants. And the focus was really about how do we create more pollinator habitats in, especially these very urban spaces, and across the city. So the, creation of pollinator habitats, we started to look for spaces that were publicly owned. The city owns them, or maybe school boards own them, and maybe some places like places of worship where there was a bit of a team, a maintenance team, and some interest in helping us not only create the pollinator habitats, but also help maintain them as well. And, we were careful with the language as well. We found that, for instance, in schools preferred the term butterfly gardens than they did pollinator patches or gardens, because of the whole honeybees. And while we tried to focus on native bees and how many of them don't actually have stingers and actually are too tiny, um, that we still just were careful around the language that we would use. So the example I wanted to highlight is one that we built one along, just kind of a green space that's actually along one of our busier roads. You can see in the top photo where the pink oval is a big mural. I just want to give a sense of, how big the space is. In the bottom photo, it kind of looks like it's a much more spacious area, but it's actually along one of our busier roads that leads and exits from one of our busy 403 highways. So you can imagine just how fast that traffic is moving. It's multi-laned. There's a boulevard in the middle, but it's still quite a busy spot. And we chose this site because originally it was just kind of this green space that had a couple of trees. No one kind of knew what was going on with it. Is it a park? Is it a green space? And also just the sheer volume of folks, right? There's not only the personal vehicle traffic, there is a number of bus routes that use it, as well as a regional, or sorry, not a regional, but the Burlington bus would also use this to come into Hamilton as well. So we would have a lot of eyes on it. So we thought it would be visually a good spot to choose. And, through building this particular pollinator patch, these habitats, a lot of partnerships evolved when creating these kinds of projects. So we had started with just a couple of beds, and then we increased the number of beds, working alongside, of course, with the city. And an interesting partnership happened with a nearby school, Hess Elementary School. And I just want to highlight just an interesting art project that started to happen, that started to emerge from it. So we had connected with a local artist. Gerton is the one in the white shirt. And we wanted to create a very big mural. And Gerton was the artist that helped lead that. And we had Hess students actually paint the mural. You can see how big it is by Gerton and another artist friend. It's a fairly large mural. And it was a great project for the students because we had the students also painting the mural, but as well helping us plant some of the beds. So it was very interactive. It did take a lot of time to create this mural. There was just a number of pieces to it, but it was a great art project for the students. And we had to get the whole school involved, where these pieces would sit in their hallways, and then throughout the course of a number of weeks for their art classes, they would come out, and it was a paint by numbers project for them. And we were able to put together this mural alongside these pollinator beds. And this next photo kind of shows you how big it is. And the city, of course, was another important partnership. It's their land. They actually installed it on this little green space. And, interesting things happened too with sight lines. It had to be elevated above the ground a certain amount, just so that, people couldn't hide things in it. There was concerns that maybe people would, could hide themselves behind it as well. There's a gap between the residents' fence line and where the mural is. So the city was great about taking on the task of actually installing it for us, because that would have been a huge challenge for us, because we don't install large mural pieces like that. But what I really like about this project is that it's a legacy piece for the students. It was a whole school initiative, and many of them helped actually put together this mural and paint the mural. So on their way to school and back, they could see that, hey, I helped create this beautiful piece. And I have to say, it was a lot of work. We haven't done it since, and I don't think we have plans to do it again. Um, but it's still a great project, and we're really pleased with the results of it. It does require a lot of funding for not only the artist time, but also just the materials alone. Um, and what I also appreciate about it is that in the winter time, it adds that kind of pop of color to a space that doesn't have a lot of color. So if anyone has questions about how we created it and the more details, I'm happy to answer that. Um, I do have to say that, when creating pollinator beds in general, just to start small, we started with 3, and then as more volunteers, especially folks who live around the area, started to notice and ask questions and wanted to help, we then started to add more additional beds and then more signage as well. And we have now volunteers that help us with the maintenance, having eyes on it, will let us know, oh, we need more plants, or we need, this part here, the bed is breaking maybe, that kind of maintenance piece that we can then address. With volunteers, handing over that day-to-day responsibility, and they live in the area and they know the area, then we're able to provide supports when needed. But then also still carry on other aspects of the project. So volunteers are key to that. And people are just really excited about this space that was kind of just a mowed area with a couple of trees, now has all these really great garden beds. The city has planted more trees, and we've got this beautiful mural. So we really like this project as a kind of a showcase for us. So then the next thing I want to talk to you about is a certification. We wanted to create something to create this corridor, right, of habitats across the city. And so we created this low stakes kind of certification. We secured funding to get these signs printed. I don't think they're about 8 inches by 10 inches. They're not big. They're just big enough really to fit on the H-frame stakes that come with them. And these are the we're feeding pollinator signs have been popping up across the city, which has been really exciting to see. And the reason why we created this was to really engage residents about the importance of pollinator habitats. And we were also hearing from residents that their own, native wildflower, native plant beds and plantings that they were doing on their front or side yards, some of their neighbors would complain about kind of the messiness or the weediness of their properties. So having a sign to indicate like, oh, actually these plantings are intentional, they have a purpose, helped with having those conversations. And again, we pulled from the resources around us. We had a local designer who volunteered to create the graphic for us. They're printed double-sided. They're on like a plastic, corrugated plastic, and they cost us about $10 a sign to print. So they're not incredibly expensive, and the engagement piece is really to really focus on how do we create a corridor across the city for pollinators. And so the idea that a native pollinator would never need to exhaust itself to search for food or shelter or nesting grounds. Our main message is that how urban areas like Hamilton can play a major role in pollinator survival. And, we're in regular contact with ecologists and botanists and experts who know way more about this kind of thing than we do. And, just making sure that we are on the right track. And residents, we find, are keen to make a difference. My key takeaways from this, again, is to start small. We printed 100 signs, even let folks know, the signs are limited. And we most of the bulk of the work was creating the certification sign, or the certification form, which is a Google form, so it's free, and just ask questions about, how big is your pollinator patch? Do you have a lot of plants in them? Like very easy to answer questions. It's not heavily administered in the sense that, we don't do site visits. We don't require samples of what is planted there. It's really just more of a fun thing to do that we could all kind of engage with. And what also, like other pieces of our initiative is that it ebbs and flows. So over the course of, the pandemic, we would receive still applications, and we just kind of group them together so that every 2 or 3 weeks we look at the registrations, approve them, get them on the map, arrange for them to pick up a sign. And it's not a huge undertaking. This year we do have a bit of funding, so we're going to focus more on getting 100 more new certifications out there. And so we just kind of ebb and flow this, so it doesn't have to be a huge piece to our initiative, but we can make it a bit bigger when we do have the funding and the support. So another piece that emerged out of this. So in 2015, we started. We have these great contacts, these great experts, and one of the experts that emerged was a master gardener whose name is Bev Wagar, and she leads the Crown Point Garden Club, a neighborhood garden club, and she had this vision to create the Monarch Awards. And here in Hamilton, we have the Trillium Awards. It's a gardening award. It's sometimes maybe called the Trillium Recognition Awards as well. And its focus is really about landscaping and visual and maintenance. Gardens kind of look a certain way. And Bev really had this idea around, how do we create an award that's focused on biodiversity and habitat restoration and pollinator habitats. And so with the Monarch Awards, there's a couple of criteria. There's 6 criteria, just asking questions about soil quality, how they store water, if they store water, kinds of plants. There's lots of varieties. There's some questions. They submit photos to us. And then from that big list of all the nominees, we have volunteer judges that take a look. And more recently, we created the Caterpillar Awards, which is, for novice beginner gardeners that maybe are just new to gardening or new to gardening with native plants. Maybe they've are gardening in a space that's really tricky. Like maybe they've recently depaved part of their driveway and now are trying to create a pollinator habitat. The Caterpillar gardener. The Caterpillar Award is just a kind of an introduction to it for folks who are new and maybe don't feel like they have the expertise to be a Monarch Award winner. And so we do this every year, and the deadline is June. And then what happens from that big list of nominations, we then are able to bring that list down to a handful. And then we have a team of volunteer judges who are experts, right? They're ecologists, they're botanists, they are master gardeners, and they go out and actually do the site visits. And what we really like about it is that it's really engaging. For folks who may not win, they automatically become part of our MAP certification, and they receive one of our We're Feeding Pollinator Awards and encouraged to, apply again. It's not a, competitive thing in the sense that there's only one winner. There's usually a couple of winners and then a number of Caterpillar Award winners. We just want to encourage folks and keep that momentum going. And my key takeaways from creating the Monarch Awards is, use some of the resources that are out there. There's master gardeners and ecologists and botanists, and generally folks want to help. We have a local woodworker that actually makes these plaques. They're carved out into, about the size of like a bread plate or like a dessert plate. And they're really sweet awards to receive. And also just to start small. When we first launched the Monarch Awards, we limited it. We have 15 wards in Hamilton. We limited it to, I think, 6. And it's only for residential spaces only. So as we figured out what we were doing and streamlined the process, we started adding more and more wards to it. So you can really just start small, see what you can manage, and go from there. I just have one more slide, and I just wanted to just talk a little bit about resources. So, we're always collecting resources. We have lots of great experts here in Hamilton that we've tapped into. There's lots of great resources that are out there that have already been created. We create links on our websites, and that's one of the ways that we engage with folks. But another way is, the main questions that we get is, what plants do I buy and where do I buy them? And so when we first started, we had created and organized a number of native plant sales, and they were basically pop-up markets. We would connect with nearby nurseries and ask them to just participate and really just focus on native plants so that folks can come, they can have questions, and they would be able to get answers. And then slowly that started to morph into different things. So last year we hosted a native plant swap for our Monarch Award nominees. So anyone who had applied either as a Monarch Award, for the Monarch Award, or for the Caterpillar Award, they were invited to this kind of exclusive event. It was for folks who really who had a very good sense of, native plants, who already had some expertise in it. I think when people host native plants, sometimes people will pull out their hostas and bring them. And we were trying to just focus on native plants alone, and really to engage as well the Monarch Award nominees and the award winners, because then a lot of knowledge could be shared at this plant swap. And so we had organized it. It was during COVID, so of course, people had to register. We had it outside, and we're not quite sure what it's going to look like in this year, especially with jumping worm and exchanging soils, because folks generally just like dug out their own plants and then brought them to the plant swap. So we are going to try to maybe avoid that. It might be a seed swap this year, but that's the beauty of these kinds of things. We can adjust and adapt to how what is the best thing to do, and that making sure that we're on the right track as well. So with that, thank you so much. I am so excited to learn more about other pollinator initiatives. I'm excited, to hear about what others are doing. I'm happy to ask or answer questions or ask my own questions as well. I'm going to stop sharing now.
Thank you so much, Juby. Oh, there's a little feedback there. That was really wonderful. What I absolutely love about that project is how collaborative it is with various stakeholders in the community, representation with the city, representation from people of all ages, including youth within schools, with contractors and consultants, just really across the board. And we do have questions that are coming in. There's a number in the chat. So let me just scroll a little bit to to find the first one here. Okay. So we have Albert, who's asked, let me see if I can actually show this one on stage. Hi, Juby, did you have to update your property standard bylaws to accommodate this program?
Oh, that's a great question, Albert. We did not, but what we're doing now is we have a biodiversity action plan that we're hoping becomes part of our city's policies and land use policies, that would help kind of reframe a bit of, especially on city property, what planting should happen out there, because currently now they just plant a bunch of peonies and then water them and then pull them out every year. We want to expand that. It's a good question. We haven't actually tried to change bylaws around weeds. The city is they're very challenging around certain bylaws around what properties look like. We don't think it's the time to do that.
And so this is kind of related to that, but just is insurance coverage an issue for anything that's on city property? Are you aware?
That's a good question. We do bring our own insurance when we have, the plantings, things like that. We do then just have the city cover the the regular day to day. Someone's just walking through the property. That's more on the city's insurance. We don't have to insure that property or sign a lease agreement. Um, but we do bring our own insurance when we do put together events and people are coming together. We make sure that we have that piece covered.
Thank you very much. I'm just checking here the chat if we have any other questions here. Feel free to put it in the Q&A, or if you'd like to ask Juby with your audio, you can raise your hand and we can invite you to the stage as well. But I just want to say there's lots of wonderful comments here of people saying, what a great project this is. Loving the art installation and how that is such a fantastic engagement tool. Um, yeah, just wonderful comments here. Let's see. All right. Well, if there's any other questions that you have for Juby, we can keep note of them in our shared note-taking space, and we can connect with Juby later on. And Juby, if you don't mind, we can get that information from you. It was really wonderful to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. It was great.
Thanks. Okay, so we're going on to our next session. So it's our lightning talk session where we're going to be highlighting some restoration projects and projects that support restoration. So if everyone can leave this session by using the back button that's on the left-hand side of your screen and go to the schedule, which is again at the top menu bar to enter the lightning talk session. We'll meet you there. And after that, we'll have a little break. So we'll see you all shortly, okay? Bye.